B. This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life. I'm your host, Olivia Flanagan, and thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Happy spring and happy Easter. The warm weather is finally on its way. There are so many Easter events coming up this weekend, so make sure you get out and enjoy some events. So for this week's USL Community Events Update, we'll be highlighting all the events happening in Uxbridge and in the Durham region. So there is an Easter Fest happening at Brooks Farm Easter weekend and this weekend happening. So you can bring your own Easter basket to do a hunt and collect Easter treats. There will be a meet and greet with the Easter Bunny. You can visit some farm animals with baby chicks. There is a designated small area just for toddlers, and there'll be an Easter Storytime wagon ride around the farm. There's live entertainment with shows happening from 11 a.m. and at 1:30. There's playtime in their barnyard playland, jumping pillows, singing chicken show, sandbox, playhouse. There is so much fun for the kids this event at Brooks Farm. It's $25 per person on Easter weekend, and pre-Easter weekend tickets are $20. All you have to do is head to brooksfarm.com to purchase your ticket. The Uxbridge BIA is hosting an Easter extravaganza on Saturday, April 19th. There's an egg hunt at all the participating businesses along Brock and Toronto Street. You can take photos with the Easter Bunny, coloring contest, prizes, and more. Kids under 12 are free as long as they're accompanied with a parent or guardian. There is fun for the whole family at this event. It is free, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on April 19th. And at Jungle Cat World Wildlife Park in Orono, they're having an Easter Bunny meet and greet on Easter weekend. The hunt is from 10 a.m. to 10:30. General admission tickets can be bought at Jungle Cat World Park Life website. Arts and crafts from 10:30 to 1. There is the hunt in the morning. There is their popular guided feeding tour happening at 1:30. You can hang out with adorable Easter bunnies at the Bunny Village. Prizes, so much more at all these events. There's Easter events happening all around. It makes me so excited there are finally outdoor events happening. It means warm weather is on the way. So make sure you head out to some Easter events this weekend. Now, on this week's episode of Uxbridge Scugog Life, we have Eric from Rogers TV Cinema Scene Show. We have Jessica from Uxbridge Scugog Animal Services, and we have Alec joining us again this week from CMHA Durham, talking about May's Mental Health Awareness Week theme and the importance of Mental Health Week. Again, I'm your host, Olivia Flanagan. This is Uxbridge Scugog Life, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you after the break with our awesome guests.
Durham region, prepare to vote. During the election campaign, watch Rogers TV to learn more about the local candidates running to be your MP. And on April 28th, make it count and vote. Rogers TV. Watch, learn, vote.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life, and for this segment, I am joined with Eric from Rogers TV Cinema Scene. Eric, thanks for joining me today.
Olivia, thank you for having me.
So, as you kind of said before, there's lots happening in the movie scene today.
Yep.
What kind of news came out today?
Yeah, so the Cannes Film Festival announced the in-competition titles and many of their other programs. So Cannes every year is a festival where it happens in France, and it's sort of like the beginning of the new festival cycle. Sundance obviously kicks things off in January, but you kind of get a sense of like what are going to be some of the big international titles for the rest of the year, but also a few of the big North American filmmakers. Like you have Wes Anderson's new film, which is actually opening this summer, The Venetian Scheme, playing at the festival in competition. And last year, Nora won the Palme d'Or. So that gives you an idea that maybe some of these movies will be award contenders moving into the fall and even into the winter of 2025.
I'm sure this is an exciting day for kind of filmmakers and stuff with those dates in film.
It is, except for waking up extremely early, because obviously, Europe, France, England, they're usually 4 or 5 hours ahead of us, right? So you had a lot of podcasters, journalists, interviewers waking up at like 3 or 4 in the morning to hear the lineup be announced or telecast, and Terry Fremo, the head of the Cannes Film Festival, kind of going through the list. So yeah, it just gives you something to look forward to, and I think like that's always a positive, because when you have something that excites you, that this is maybe getting released this year, or this filmmaker that I really love, their last film has a new movie coming out, those things really they add a quality of enthusiasm to just your own interest, besides like reviewing or talking about movies, but just thinking about as fandom, and enjoying what's to come.
Right. Now, you're also here today to talk about 2 new movies coming out soon, Warfare and Drop.
Yes,
right?
yeah. Now, Drop, okay. I really like the premise of this idea. Like you're taking the Agatha Christie whodunit, or in the case of this, who dropped it, using airdrops from a nefarious force that is stalking and harassing Megan Fahey's character, Violet Megan Fahey from the White Lotus season 2, who's on a first date with Brendan Scalarna from This Is the End, or This Ends With Us. And so when you're watching this movie, you're thinking, that's a great setup for a high concept thriller, but then you start to notice that there are certain pieces of dialogue and plot points that you can poke holes into. And I don't want to give too much away, but I found that Brandon Scalarna, his character, there are moments that he says certain things that feels like, okay, this would be a date that, logically speaking, would be canceled or rescheduled, given what he has to do later in the night. Okay. And so it's an odd choice to make, but I think Megan Fahey is actually really good in this movie, even though some of the weightier moments in the material don't necessarily tonally combined well with some of the thriller mystery elements, because you have a character who's a survivor of abuse, and with that, like it's really important to handle that in a very delicate manner, and sometimes it can feel a little bit gratuitous or exploitative.
Now, have you seen the movie?
I have, yeah.
So I watched the trailer and I think it looks super interesting. It comes out, I think, on the 11th.
Yes.
So I will definitely be heading to the movie theater to see that. I don't know, I like those like nail biting.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh,
and a part of it is happen? Like, seeing how someone deals with a mystery and putting the pieces together and becoming a would-be detective. And in this case, it's a single location for the most part. There's also Violet's home, but this skyscraper restaurant that's called Palette was built specifically for the film.
Wow.
And so when you're watching it, there are these little kind of vignettes that are all kind of focused in on the characters, with cinematography specifically, in lighting, and focusing in on them, that are intriguing, and you like that idea. But if you know also the third actor that's in this movie, that their name comes up in the opening title sequence, you automatically know who the villain is. Okay. Because this person has played scumbags and villains in many other productions, so it's almost like you need to leave him off of the credits or put him at the end of the credits, like his title.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but it's fun. Like I think like it'd be a good Friday night flick, to hang out with friends.
Date night,
exactly.
Like
It'd probably be a better date night movie than the date that they're having on the screen. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Now, also, Warfare is coming out soon.
Yes. Yeah. So this is Alex Garland, who directed Civil War last year and is also known for heady science fiction movies like Ex Machina and Annihilation, and he's the writer of 28 Days Later. 28 Years Later is coming up this summer. He worked with a military supervisor named Ray Mendoza on Civil War, And through that collaboration, they developed a script and co-directed this movie Warfare, which is based partly on Ray's own experiences. Now, what's really fascinating about this movie is that it begins, or it opens, you know how you see like with films, they'll say like based on a true story or inspired by true events. This movie says that it's inspired by the memories of the soldiers. And I found that fascinating because you can take more liberties with what's truthful and what's not, or what's remembered years later. So the story takes place in Iraq in 2006 with American soldiers kind of held up in an apartment, and they're scoping out potential villain-esque but also nameless entities on the other side. So Sergeant rebellion and terrorists. So when they're focusing on that, you know, you sit there with these soldiers in this very hot, small, closed-off space for what feels like hours, even though the movie's only 85 minutes. It's more of an experience than it is, say, your classic war picture, where, you know, you have characters in combat always fighting. You're waiting for something to happen. And that's what keeps you on edge the whole time. It's stripped down. It's not trying to be a movie. It's almost more of an experiment or an exercise in how war films are made and trying to be as realistic as possible. It almost feels more like an art piece, as an immersion of an art piece, where you're watching it and you're following along, but there's no plot. And there's also no score for large portions of the movie that really keeps you unnerved, where you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, what's going to happen? When is it going to happen? And when something does happen, the sound design pierces, you know, like it's a jump scare. It just pierces your ear, and you can really feel like you're having a visceral response to it.
Cool. That sounds like an awesome movie. That is all the time we have for today. Eric, thank you for joining me today.
No worries. Thank you.
And we'll be back after the break.
Hi, my name's Scott Dennis, host of the Sports Report here on Rogers TV Durham. Do you love sports? So do I, and we're talking about it anywhere from the Oshawa Generals to college, university to amateur sport. Make sure you tune in here, only on Rogers TV Durham.
This is Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life, and for this segment I am joined with Jessica from Uxbridge Scugog Animal Services. Jessica, thanks for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
And you've brought your little friend Ernest here.
Yeah.
This is the cutest little wings on. Are they like Easter themed or?
It's hoping to get him a home. He's available for adoption, so we'll bring him out in a little bit and show him off.
For sure. So you're kind of here today to talk about some awesome events you have coming up, kind of supporting Uxbridge Scugog Animal Services. So Easter's coming up this week, very soon. What kind of Easter events do you have coming up?
Yeah, so we have for the first time, it's an Easter basket event. So what we're asking is anyone who donates $10 or more up until, I believe it's April 15th, we're putting together some pet Easter baskets. So our staff will be out delivering those baskets for your animals if you live in Uxbridge or Scugog, if you've made a donation. And those donations, they can be made online or in person at the shelter as well.
Awesome. So you just make a donation, $10 or more, and then you may be delivered a basket.
Yeah,
Awesome.
And if you live outside the area, we can donate them back to our shelter animals as well. We did one very similar for Valentine's Day, and people really liked it.
Love
so
that.
It's kind of a play off of that theme.
Totally, that's amazing. Now you also have your Super Pet Calendar fundraiser kind of going on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is one that we brought up. It was quite a few years ago that it was a success. So the idea behind it is people will pay a certain fee to submit the photos of their pets.
Yeah.
So all of the photos will be included in a 2026 calendar, but we have a committee of judges that are going to be voting on the sort of main theme for each month.
Okay.
So all of the money that we raise with this, it's going back to our veterinary fees. We've had a couple of very expensive special needs cases in the last couple of years, so we're hoping that this will offset that. But regardless, anything that we make will go back to our vet fees. And then the calendars, they will be for sale as well, sort of end of this year into early next year.
Awesome. Now, have all the submissions for the calendar pictures closed?
Not yet. So it isn't actually even open yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now we're focusing on business sponsors. So if you have a business in town that you want features in the calendar, we are looking for businesses to put their ads in. But in the next 2 weeks or so, we will start opening up those photo submissions and information on how to apply for that. It'll be on both township websites and then also in the animal shelter. We're hoping to have a couple outlets in town too.
Totally. So if you have the cutest picture of your little pet, make sure
your pet could be a super pet.
Yes. And is like that name kind of come from like superhero, like you're making a difference with the calendar?
Yeah, you're making a difference in the vet fees, but also it was the theme that brought, there was a lady, Kathy, that brought this up quite a few years ago. She did it for quite a number of years before she left our shelter. So we're hoping to bring it back and continue with her theme.
I think that's an awesome fundraiser, and people are always looking.
It's a lot of fun too.
Who doesn't need a calendar, right?
Exactly.
Like everyone can use a calendar, even though it's on your phone. Sometimes it's nice to just have it.
All of your appointments.
On your fridge, yeah, for sure. So you also brought Ernest today. Can you kind of talk a little bit about his adoption process, if anyone watching is interested in adopting him?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll bring Ernest out. You can say hello. So Ernest is one of our special needs cats.
Okay.
He has kidney disease. So it's not affecting him negatively at all, but what he does need is a special diet to kind of keep that at bay.
Okay.
So the veterinary process for him, he just needs regular checkups and then making sure his levels are stable. Come here, buddy. If anyone is interested in adopting, we do have an application that everyone fills out.
Okay.
So that can be done online. It's available on the Township of Uxbridge website.
Okay.
All bios for all of our adoptable animals, not just Ernest, is on our Facebook page. That's Uxbridge Scugog Animal Shelter. So we'll have a little bit of info on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And the adoption application is also linked there. So it can be filled out in person at our shelter. It can be emailed back to us if you fill it out online, or you can just come in and see any of our adoptable cats.
I love the little wings. It's like the cutest halter I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's very sweet.
Hi.
He's an older guy, so he is
How
a
old is he?
senior, probably at least 10 years, maybe a little bit older.
Hi.
He came to us as a stray, so we're not exactly sure.
You're so cute.
Yeah, he's not overly a fan of other cats, so that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But he has learned to kind of coexist with our shelter animals. So if you have a respectable cat at home that can respect his space, he might be a good fit for you.
Awesome. He's so cute.
Yeah.
And you kind of have a few animals open for adoption right now, so
Definitely.
head to the Animal Services website or the town website to kind of fill out that application.
Yeah, so the town website is uxbridge.ca, but our Facebook page is really where you can see information, so the bios on them, get a little bit of a sense of their personality, or even just stop into the animal shelter.
Yeah.
Now our dogs, it's a little bit of a different process for them.
Okay.
We do also have an event coming up with that.
Yes. Do you want to talk a bit about that event too?
Definitely. So it's a matchmaking event for our dogs. A lot of the dogs that we have at the shelter right now are not overly sociable with strange people right off the bat. So our goal with this event is to make it as structured as possible. We're going to have a trainer. Grassroots Training is working with us on our shelter dogs right now, and they're going to facilitate the event to make sure that it's very structured so that we're setting up the dogs for success, but also the homes. So we are asking people to pre-register by filling out an application. Our dog applications are available on our Facebook page as well. So same Facebook page, Uxbridge Scugog Animal Shelter, or the Township of Uxbridge website.
Yeah.
And then we'll contact you after you submit that application so that we can make ssure we do have a fit for you, but also schedule a time. It's not going to be a drop-in event.
Yeah, that event sounds awesome. Oh my gosh, she's so cute.
You're sweet.
That event sounds awesome. And just like a great way for like the dogs to kind of meet people, even if they're not their forever homes, just like feel comfortable and social with people, but obviously that's the goal.
Yeah, well, not necessarily to socialize them with strange people. That's not the ultimate goal.
Okay.
But it's really just to do a special introduction, to make sure it's structured, to make sure that it's set up for success for people who are really committed to helping them through that
Yeah.
and helping them through their training.
That's awesome.
And that event is the 26th.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then kind of with the warm weather coming up, any quick tips or anything that people should know about with the warm weather and wildlife?
Yeah, definitely. So we have been getting more calls recently about wildlife. Baby animals are starting to come out too. So something to keep in mind with baby animals, if you're seeing wildlife outside, if it's a baby and alone, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's an orphan. So a lot of times the mothers will leave to get food, or you won't see them because they only come back at night. So if you see a wild animal outside alone, it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs help. You can definitely call us and we can give you some advice based on the specifics of the situation, but just because it's a baby there alone, it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be removed and need help.
Awesome.
Yeah, same thing with adults. Just if you see them wandering around, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're sick or injured. Give us a call if you think something strange is going on, because that's something that our staff do address, so sick or injured wildlife, and we can go off the specifics.
Awesome. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you, Ernest, for coming. You're the cutest ever.
Yeah.
And we'll be back after the break.
Thank you.
This is Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Uxbridge Scugog Life, and I am here with Alec from CMHA Durham. Back again this week. Alec, thanks for coming back this week.
Thank you for having us on.
And this week you're here to talk about May and Mental Health Awareness Week, right?
That's right.
Yes. So to kind of start off, can you talk a little bit about what the theme is for 2025's Mental Health Awareness Week?
Fantastic. Well, this Mental Health Week is May 5th to 11th, and we're going to be talking about unmasking and talking about the importance of kind of revealing and talking about your mental health.
Awesome. So what is masking and why is it kind of important to address?
Absolutely. Well, masking is when people may be doing things to kind of hide how they're truly feeling or their behaviors, things that kind of help them maybe feel more active socially or blend in, but they're not being their true selves. They're not kind of addressing the serious concerns they have going on.
And how does masking kind of affect somebody's mental health and relationships?
Well, if you think about it, if you go into a social situation and you're not feeling great, or you're having a bad day, or maybe you are suffering from depression or other things like that, you try really hard to kind of put that away and show that you're kind of blend in with everyone else. That's what masking is like, and that can be an exhausting process for people. It also doesn't do anything to kind of address what's going on with their mental health or the stigma surrounding it.
And why would you say it's kind of important for people to unmask and show their true selves?
It's difficult to form relationships with people when you're always hiding how you really feel. You're not being honest and genuine with them, and you're not being honest and genuine with yourself either. It also doesn't truly address what's going on with you and doesn't give you an opportunity to kind of work through that thing and get the help that you're really looking for. So we really want people to kind of be open and look at opportunities to kind of address what they're doing to kind of mask and think about what they can do to be more honest and true with themselves and help fight stigma for everybody.
And I feel like social media, especially, it plays more and more into our lives.
Yep.
Like you can kind of mask everything online. Like again, social media is just like a highlight reel of your life. Most people don't choose to share things that they're experiencing or dealing with mental health and stuff. But I feel like social media almost makes it easier to kind of like hide behind the screen and show that you maybe are like okay, and if you're not, and that's not, if you aren't, that's totally okay, but
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It feels like people are picking the perfect picture of themselves, and that's what they're showing to the world.
Yes.
And you think about masking, that's exactly what you're doing, but in social situations and interactions and work, and you're doing that every day. That wears you down, it gets exhausting, and it's not being honest.
Yeah, so what kind of tips would you say you have for someone who finds themselves trying to hide their true colors in social settings?
A lot of the time it's just thinking about how you're feeling when you're on your own. right? What's going on with you, how you feel that way, and think about when you're talking with people if you're really being honest. So like when someone says, how are you doing? And they say, and you say you're fine, right? Is that really how you feel?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to overshare. You don't need to jump into a whole bunch of things, especially if it's someone you're not comfortable with.
Right.
But if you're talking with someone who you know and you're comfortable with, are you still just saying fine? Are you still saying that everything's okay when it's not? So it can be just a simple thing like that.
Yeah, now, I'm sure Mental Health Awareness Week plays a huge part in CMHA. So what kind of events do you have going on or activities?
Well, we're going to be having flag raisings all across Durham region. We're going to cities and towns. We're going to be doing one in Scugog as well. And we are bringing our Mental Health Week flag. And as you can see from this one, the Mental Health Week flag has been going around to our events in the community.
Awesome.
And people have been signing it. So here, you want to grab that in? Maybe
Yes.
show it? Yeah, so this is the Mental Health Week
Awesome.
flag. And if you find any of our events or things in the community, or you stop by our office, you can have an opportunity to sign the flag and kind of recognize and stand and show your support for people with dealing with mental health issues.
That's awesome. We will for sure be signing this before you head out today.
Fantastic.
I think, and it's also these kind of like initiatives of people signing posters, signing flags and stuff, like it shows that people aren't alone and that there are all these people, even though you don't know their names, like all these people are here for you and there to support you, right?
These are all people who saw this and
Yeah.
said this is they have a loved one or someone
Yeah.
they care about or themselves, and that have made them realize the importance about talking and being open about mental
Yeah,
health.
I think that's awesome. Now, how can people get involved and kind of support Mental Health Week?
Well, you can go online to mentalhealthweek.ca and you can download a whole toolkit that'll give you everything you need to put things out on social media, but also to kind of start a conversation. So if you want to talk with someone about mental health, it gives you tools and tips, things that you might need to kind of work that in and talk with people about it.
Yeah. And what should someone do if them or a loved one is struggling with mental health?
Absolutely. Well, I would encourage people to reach out to CMHA Durham. You can call us at 905-436-8760. You can also reach us online at cmhadurham.org. If someone's going through an immediate crisis and they need help, they can call 988, the Canada-wide helpline crisis number where people can reach 24-hour support for suicide crisis and services.
Awesome. Now, why would you say that this is kind of an important theme to celebrate this year? Or recognize this year?
Well, you think about it, we talk about stigma, we talk about people being open and talking about mental health,
Yeah.
but looking at the actual concrete effect it has on people. The fact that, people may be wearing themselves out in social situations. They may not be able to be the true, authentic person they want to be. So giving people the opportunity to kind of take a minute and think about that and open the conversation around that for everyone. Because masking isn't a common kind of term or phrase that people think about.
Right.
People don't really think about it in that kind of terms. You might think about like people talking about putting on your game face when you go out
Yeah.
to a social situation, right? It's very much that kind of thing,
For
but to
sure.
the point where you're hiding who you really are
Yeah.
and how you really feel, not only from everyone else, but sometimes from yourself as well. So you may come back from work and you're wiped out, right? Or you may come out from hanging out with people and find that you're exhausted, and you might need to look at that and kind of figure out why you feel that way.
Yeah. I think that is an awesome theme to kind of recognize this year. Like, even just, I feel like I'm reflecting on like everyone that I know that struggles with mental health, and yeah, that's an awesome theme. So
Great.
I hope all your events go well this May. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
And if you or a loved one is struggling, please reach out to CMHA. There are so many amazing supports and activities and stuff that you can get involved in.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Okay, Alec, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Uxbridge Scugog Life. We had Jessica from Uxbridge Scugog Animal Services, Eric from Cinema Scene, and Alec from CMHA Durham. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, and we'll see you next week.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.